Why, hello, chat. I guess you're wondering who am I and what have I done with V, because we're 5 minutes earlier, and usually I like being late. But no, we're here. It's just that I didn't want to get mixed up in something, because my wife is just waiting for an opportunity to give me something to do before the live stream. I don't know how she does it, like, regardless of when I schedule these things. It's always that something needs to be done 5 minutes before, like taking out the trash, cleaning the kitchen. It's like literally right before, you know. So now I tricked her. Now I started 5 minutes earlier. She can't do anything about it. Yeah. Anyway, right. We're going to be talking about Britland today. You know, like British. And I'm also going to tell you something about Sargon. I had a conversation with him. It was very enlightening. Actually, me and Arch had a conversation with him. So if you're interested, stay tuned. Let me just share this this scary stream to other people. Now, for those of you who don't know why British is scary, it's because a man was arrested, convicted, actually. I mean, that is, you know, fast and speedy trial. I do give them that. Like, they did manage to uphold his human rights for a fast and expedient trial. But he tweeted emojis online, the sick son of a bitch. The sick son of a bitch has tweeted emojis online, and the force of the law descended upon him. Keir Starmer rests easily at night knowing that the menace has been dealt away. People have been locked up for the safety of others. Apparently, they're saying that even if you're abroad, even if you're a person like myself, who's talking mad shit about Britain, I may, like, they're not saying I will, but I may be extradited. I don't think they're going to come after me personally, especially when there's ways that are easier to deal with content creators that are problematic. But the message is there, right? Just shut the fuck up. Just, oi, shut the fuck up. The BBC can talk for you, alright? The Guardian can speak for you. You need to shut the fuck up. If you want to talk, just talk with your friends. Like, in Romania, you still have free speech. Talk with other Romanians. Do not talk in public, because the British may hear. And if they may hear, they may be prone inciting to violence, even if, like, you're not intending to do that. So, hi V, how's it going? Sorry to hear about the UK. To be honest, like, this is not my first merry-go-round. I also got shocked when I saw Australia. But, like, Australia is a nation of, you know, that descended from prisoners. So you can make the argument, well, yeah, but they're also a nation that descended from jailers. So their behavior is quite expected. Especially, like, during the pandemic, they did some of the most authoritarian shit that you can ever imagine. Like, for instance, one of the things that they did, if I remember correctly, if memory serves, they basically said that if you're not vaccinated, you can't go into the parliament, right? So, like, people who, of course, have been vaccinated, they would have elected a representative. Like, they would have elected someone to carry out their will in the legislative. But if that person didn't get vaccinated, all the people get the fuck off. They don't get represented. And shit like this, you know, what's happening in Australia, So you're like, okay, well, that's a little bit fascist, isn't it? It's a little bit of fascismus. A little, not a lot, but a little bit. And now you see it in the UK. To be honest, I didn't expect it from France. I mean, they actually elected communists into office. But in France, you have athletes starving. So, like, the communists are focused on doing other things. Yeah, I mean, no other country in Europe, really, has done the measures that the UK is doing. Like, they're not, you know, arguing with the CEO on Twitter, threatening imprisonment for emojis. Like, that type of shit is not expected. It's a little bit bewildering, I must say. It's a little bit taking me aback. You know, like, other countries did have riots. Other countries did have civil unrest. But somehow they managed to fix it without terrorizing the online space. And this is what the British have been doing. Let me show you just one of the more interesting tweets that they have. Look at this. This is absolutely beautiful, right? This is on Twitter. I woke up with this morning. Listen, you bigots. Your online actions can have consequences. The consequences shall never be the same. Do not upset Keir Starmer, for Keir Starmer is watching and making sure that you're safe. And if you're a danger for yourself or for others using the clickety-clack keyboard, he shall lock you away. Think before you post, bigot. Content that incites violence or hatred isn't just harmful, but it can also be illegal. The CPS takes the online violence very seriously. Do you know what they do? They also do online trials, and they will put you in the online jail because nothing is more serious than the shit that happens online. No, but like, imagine in 2016 if you saw this, right? Even if you're a British person, imagine like 2016, you got a time machine, and you're showing this to the people from 2016. How would they react? What would they think? You know, there's a video game that Ubisoft made, which is called, what was it? Not Assassin's Creed, no. Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs London, right? And apparently it takes place after Brexit, and it displays like a fascist dystopia of the United Kingdom. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, wow, you know, like that game actually looks good compared to what it's now. At least the streets are clean. At least the crime level is low. At least there's no riots. Well, what was it? Watch Dogs? God damn it, I forgot the name. Watch Dogs Legion, I think? Hold on, let's watch it. Let's watch it. Because, again, like this at the time, I just want people to understand, like, at the time, this looked like a horror show, right? But when you're playing it now, it's like, can we have that? So, Watch Dogs Legion, yes. Official launch trailer. I think this is the one. People keep asking me, like, V, what do you watch on YouTube? What do you watch? Because you're a content creator. Like, are you watching other content creators? No, this is my list. Attack on Titan. The music. I like the music. Dragon Ball Super. Ultimate Battle Ultra Instinct. I think I have some Sabaton as well. Overlord. Music. Like, I just watch intro shit. I like the intros from many animes. Anyway, right, let's listen to this. Look how clean the streets are. Holy shit.
London is in a death spiral.
Move in and lock down the city.
Destruction is always the cure.
The city needs a resistance. And it starts with you.
This is like just the trailer for the game, but when you actually play the game, like the problem is caused by the player. Like, the player is causing this shit. But if you just like start the game and you're walking around the city, it looks perfectly fine.
Let's take back London.
Now, again, I want people to understand that when this was made, when this game came out 3 years ago, this looked incredibly far-fetched. Right? Like, it looked like, dude, come on. You know, like, this is never going to happen. Like, fascism in the UK, how do you say? The British fought the Nazis. Like, they are incapable. Like they cannot conceive fascism. They just, you take them together and you're asking them, okay, be fascist. They don't know how. Like, they literally don't know how. But, yea and behold, 3 years later, that game was woke as fuck and killed the franchise. The whole story revolves around UK becoming authoritarian because of Brexit. How is it any different though? They managed to predict it? I couldn't have predicted it, but they did. So, there you go. V, you are very wrong. No, subwoofer. It is you who are wrong. Have you considered this? By the way, I was talking with Sargon. Right? Like, Sargon is making videos about the UK. And, I'm like, dude, like, knock it off. Like, you're gonna get in trouble. Just wait a little bit. Just give it a couple of weeks. You know, like, now the tensions are hot. Just wait a little bit. And he was like, oh, well, I done nothing. I didn't do nothing. Like, I'm not incited to hatred. Like, why would they come after me? I didn't do nothing. And I'm like, look, you're thinking about this the wrong way. right? Like, you're thinking that the government actually has principles and they actually want to get rid of hatred. See, like, this is not the way you need to think. The way you need to think is that the government goes like, okay, who's causing problems? Who's the cheeky little shit online? Who's the cheeky little shit that's a content creator? And then when they find out who's the cheeky little shit, the next question is like, what do we have on him? What can we get on him? Like, what is something that we can do in order to shut him up? Now, that is the correct mindset, right? Like, when you start thinking like a leftist, the world starts making sense. Did you see Majid Nawaz was trying to get Carl arrested? Did he now? What was it like him and Carl friends? Was it Majid Nawaz like doing interviews? Am I getting it incorrectly? Am I remembering it improperly? I mean, it's possible. Let me see. Majid Nawaz. What is he? Majid. What's his Twitter handle? I used to listen to Majid Nawaz back in the day. But then I stopped because I don't listen to other political content creators. Because, like, the thing is, I would listen to someone and I would be like, wow, that's a really great point. And then it becomes my points. And when I go on stream and I talk about them, people are like, oh, why did you steal this guy's points? And I'm like, okay, you know what? Fine. I'll just stop listening. Dindu is my favorite nothing. Oh. He has a big platform. They're definitely watching him. I think they just don't want to escalate it yet. Because, like it or not, Sargon is a journalist, right? So, it just doesn't look good for the cameras when you go after journalists. I mean, it doesn't look good for the camera when you go after 50-year-old ladies, when you go after people with cancer, you know, when you go after people that tweeted emojis to their family. It doesn't look good. But it's still not as bad as when you go after the journalists. Like, that is an escalation which I don't think they're ready to go there yet, but if things go the way they are, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Mr. Starman has, what, like 3 more years? So it's still possible. It's still on the table. Their experts don't actually know much about computers. They're just postgraduates. What, like the British government? No, they know about computers. No. They're actually very effective when it comes to computers. No. Do not underestimate the capacity of the government to do tyranny. Like when it's about something that actually interests them, they become very competent. I think that Tommy Robinson is getting 10 years if he comes back to the UK. Probably. I think he will come, though. I don't think he's the type of person that is going to try and escape. Like, I understand he's in Cyprus now or something, right? The thing is, like, he went to Cyprus before all of this kicked off. So it's not like you can make the argument, well, like, he saw things kicking off, so he fled the country. No. I think he's got, like, court dates. And he may actually get there. I'm not sure. I haven't followed Tommy that closely. But yeah, like the fact that the crowd is cheering his name and the fact that he is managing to get so many people, he is definitely a troublemaker. Hold on. How did the Soviet Union used to call these people? They had the name. An agitator. No. Provocateur. Yes, like that. That's what the Soviet Union would call a provocateur. He provokes, right? So if he provokes, then they will put him somewhere where he cannot provoke. Everyone blames Amerifats, but the UK is worse. Well, see, I will tell you the difference. When the Americans go full fascismus, it affects the entire world. Like look at the LGBT ideology that the Americans have, right? Like it spreads. Like last time I checked, the Kabul University, when the Americans were there, was teaching gender studies. And I think they even had like an LGBT curriculum, right? So like America, when they go a little bit into fascismus, they spread everywhere. If the UK or the Australia decides to go full fascist, it's a little bit more contained. It's a little bit more, you know, like you just don't have to be there and it's okay. It's fine. Tommy isn't his real name. Oh, do you want me to go like real name? Maxley Lennon. Yeah, like I generally don't understand why is it that Mr. Beast is the only one that escapes the power word real name. Like, everyone else uses pseudonyms, right? But for some reason, everyone else gets power worded, but like, Mr. Beast is the only one. So what I'm saying is, like, you read an article where it's like, PewDiePie did racist jokes, and it's like, PewDiePie, real name, Phoenix Killbear. You know, it's kind of like the Warlock that shows that they know your real name so they can control the demon. Or what was it? Sargon of Akkad, real name, Carl Benjamin, you know? It's almost like the press is like, we know who you are. Even though, like, everyone knows who these people are. Like, it's not that they're trying to hide or anything. It's like, most of these individuals either come from an era where, like, pseudonyms on the internet was a thing. Like Thunderfoot. Like, the reason he has the name Thunderfoot is not to hide out that he is real name, Phil Masson, you know? It's just like he was playing, I think it was Quake, and he was playing Capture the Flag, so it's like Thunderfoot, right? Like, he runs really fast with the flag. But then you have the journalist, it's like, we know your name, you cannot hide from us! It's like, all right, Jesus fucking Christ, holy shit. If they power word me, like, it would be funny because it would be difficult for them to pronounce it accurately, so at least there's that. Okay, there's two people. There's two people that didn't get power word real name. One of them is Mr. Beast, and the other one is the Ghost of Kiev. Like, these are the two mythological beings, the two people that have entered myth in our land, and we just don't power word them. Everyone else gets power worded, though. Everyone else. Brexit cooked Thunderfoot. I mean, well, was he wrong, though? I mean, look at the state of the UK now. So, was Brexit really that bad? It's kind of funny, though, because, like, the European Union wouldn't give a fuck. Like, even if Britain was in the EU, like, no one would be like, yeah, this is a little bit authoritarian, don't you think? But if Turkey did this, like, I guarantee to you, if Turkey did literally what the UK is doing now, all the politicians would be, oh, we're looking at Turkey with concern. Oh, we're so concerned about Turkey. Aren't you guys concerned? I am so concerned. Look at what the Sultan is doing. Look at Erdogan. Look what he's doing. Oh, that is so concerning. Oh my goodness. So concerning. But, like, for some reason, when the UK does it, it's like, oh, well, I hope they get through this together. I hope they manage to settle the civil unrest and move forward from there. If Tommy is in Cyprus, this sounds like the start of the Napoleon arc. I never thought about it that way, but now that you say it. It has nothing to do with Brexit. Why do you keep saying that? Because it's fucking funny, Billy Blogs. It's fucking funny. They were constantly, oh, if Brexit happens, we will get fascismus. We will get the fascism. Brexit happened. Look where you're at. Look where you're at. You get arrested for tweeting emojis. Right? They're making arguments saying, even if you're outside of Britain, you are not safe if we tweet things that are illegal. We have prosecutors around the world. Our reach is everywhere. And it's like, okay, holy shit. But like, if you get Brexit, you get fascismus. We got Brexit, we got fascismus. Where's the lie, Billy Blogs? Now, if you're going to come at me with, like, readers have added context, fair enough. But it doesn't change the fact that I am right. Far-left fascism. They didn't mention it. They didn't fucking mention it. They said you'll get fascism. They didn't say which flavor. They said you'll get ice cream. And you're like, oh, well, we got chocolate. I wanted vanilla. It's still ice cream. Okay? It's still fucking ice cream. I like the fact that, you know, the definition of fascism. Like, what do right-wingers... Well, sorry, not... What do normal people understand by fascism? And the answer to that is a system that removes your liberty. A system where you don't have a private and a public life, where everything is public. A system where you're reliant on the state. A system where the politicians aren't held accountable, right? That is what right-wingers understand by fascism. Left-leaning people do not consider that fascism. They only consider that fascism if right-wingers are in charge, right? Like, that is the only definition. Like, this is fine with leftists. Like, all what I described is fine. As long as you got a leftist in charge, it's fine. It's not fascism. Fascism is when you have the right winger in charge. Stop insulting fascism. I'm not insulting it. I'm not giving you the political definition. I'm giving you, like, what people on the street think when they hear the word fascism. Like, why are people against fascism? Because they don't want in their private life to have the government involved. They don't want to be reliant on the government. They do not want politicians to be held unaccountable, right? This is why the average Joe doesn't like fascism. He doesn't care about the other thing, right? He just wants to grill. But this particular thing is why he doesn't like. He doesn't like his liberties and his freedoms further restricted. He doesn't want to pay more taxes than he already is. He doesn't want to have the government involved into his private affairs, to listen to his phone calls, to listen when he's playing on the PlayStation, to be thought police, to have ideas in his head that he can't express or else he lands into prison. To see his friends disappearing and be unable to talk about that. That is why the average Joe doesn't like fascism. He doesn't care about your philosophical definition that you learned from a book. He doesn't care about your university professor that's telling you what real fascism is. He doesn't care about like what really happened in Benito Mussolini's Italy. No. Listen. Like, this is the only thing that the average Joe cares, all right? He doesn't want the government to be involved in his private affairs. He doesn't want to be monitored everywhere he goes like he's in a fucking prison. That is why the average Joe is against fascism. I am sparking every day, Marcato. But today I'm just a little bit more entertaining. People don't have a say to begin with. Well, you know, they actually do. Like, this is the interesting part. If people wouldn't have a say in it, they wouldn't invest so many resources in order to thought police people. Like, if legitimately people didn't matter at all, they wouldn't care about any of this. You wouldn't have hate speech laws, you wouldn't have, all this political propaganda and politicians spending hundreds of billions of dollars on elections. The reality is that, no, actually people do matter, but it's not in the sense that you think. And I'll give you an example. In Romania, right? Pandemic happens and everyone has to mask up. And in the beginning, people complied. So the police went around and was actually issuing fines on people that didn't wear a mask. However, after a while, people got sick of that shit and they stopped complying. So, like, for instance, you had to show a QR code in order to enter a mall. And what would happen is that everyone would, the person with the QR code would share it with 100 of his friends and families. Right? So now you have like 100 people using the same QR code to enter the mall. You have people just flat out refusing to mask up. What do you think the police did? Do you think they arrested them all? Do you think that they had enough rooms in prisons to arrest them all? Do you think the courthouses were satisfied when they couldn't do their normal activities because they were swamped with litigation over people suing the cops? No, right? So basically, if people actually don't want something, it doesn't happen. The thing with what's happening with the left is that people do want it. This is why, like, a lot of people don't understand. There are British people that love the current way. Like, they actually enjoy this. They support it. They actually go out and vote for this, right? How many of them are there? I don't know, but, like, you cannot have any type of system without the consent of at least some of the people. Does it need to be a majority? Probably not. It also depends. Like, people in the city actually have more to say than the people in the rural area. Right? Because, like, what are the people in the rural area going to do? So, no, like, it actually matters what people have to say. Overbearing government bureaucracy have nothing on the cynical Eastern Europe. Well, it's kind of like you read history and you understand how it's like, and then you just understand human nature. Because I see a lot of people right now, it's like, oh, well, the British, they're going to rise up. Like, the tyranny is going... No, like, there are nations that are tyrannical and they're very stable. Some of them can even be prosperous, depending on which place you're in, right? Like, take America, for instance. America is supposed to be the bastion of freedom, right? But if in America you happen to be in Detroit, if you happen to be in Baltimore, right? Your lifestyle is probably lower than if you're in China, in Shanghai, right? Like, even though China is an authoritarian nation and it's a lot more restrictive and you have like all these other things, it really depends. It depends where you're at in that nation. It depends what you do. It depends what job you have. It depends what friends and connections you have. So there are nations that are very stable, even though they are authoritarian and they have very little freedom for their people. Even in Russia now, right? Like, if you're in Moscow, you can have a better lifestyle in Russia, in Moscow, than you can have in Britain, in, I don't know, certain of, in London, actually. Like, London in Britain is a very expensive place. It's very difficult to live in London. It's very expensive. In some areas, it's very dangerous. Of course, now, if you live in rural Russia, then yeah, it's probably bad than in London. It depends, right? But, like, my point is that the system, the government, doesn't necessarily decide whether or not, because it's authoritarian, like whether or not it will have stability. There are nations that are authoritarian and they are very unstable. There are nations that are liberal and they are very stable. And there's nations that are authoritarian and are very stable as well. So, yeah, people say China is unstable, it's barely hanging by a thread. And you know what the Chinese say? They say America is unstable, it's barely hanging by a thread. Like this type of argument is like, oh, well, yeah, but like China is unstable. Yeah, and the Chinese say the same about the United States. I mean, debunk the claim. Say that it ain't so. I mean, I remember a lot of Chinese people during the 2020 riots saying that, oh my goodness, America is falling apart. Fuck, you have Americans that say America is falling apart. Look at Tim Pool. I bet if I go to Tim Pool's channel now, I will see like 5 titles about Civil War. Let's see if I'm right. Let's see if I am right. I am going to go to Tim Pool's website. Let's see if we have anything about Civil War. Hold on, I found the culture war. No, this is not the word I want, Tim Pool. To be fair, I think he's not using... Oh no, he does use Civil War. I thought that he would stop using Civil War, but no, he still does. Because I was like, okay, well, at this point, like, people are kind of getting, like, are making it into a meme. If you know, the press, right? Like, the press uses various euphemisms in order to write about certain articles. So they will say stuff like, youth, stranger, this is my favorite one, stranger danger, right? Like, if you Google a stranger commits crime. There's a common denominator to many strangers. I don't know what it is, but like, again, the press writes it stranger. And usually when people start memeing about it, when people like start making jokes about like youths, then they change it, right? Like they change the word to something else because they're like, okay, well, it has run its course. So I'm thinking that Tim Pool will do the same with Civil War, but no, it's, to be fair, it's 1 month ago, right? Like, he's got Civil War here. He's got another Civil War here. This Civil War was more profitable. It got 190,000 views. Andrew Wilson roasts Richard Spencer. Says anti-natalism is satanic. Huh. I see. Urban youth? No, I don't think they used the word urban youth. I think this was an invention of the internet. Corporations are people, according to the law. Google is a legal person. In America, yeah, I think. But like in other places, no. The thing with the lowering birth rates, you know, there is a saying. I forgot who said it, but like no society survives. Hold on, let me think how they framed it. Yeah, like no society survives a time of plenty, right? So if you actually look at human history, and this is true for most places, when people get rich, they have lower birth rates. And even when you go into any country you want, right? You look at people in the rural area, they have like 4 or 5 kids. And then you look at people that are doctors and engineers, and they have like maybe 1 kid. But often they don't have any. And this is like true in any culture, in any part of the world, in any part of the time history. Like when people are poor and miserable, they have a lot of kids. When people are rich and wealthy, they have no kids. I don't know why though. I genuinely do not understand the mindset, but it is, right? So basically what ends up happening is that you have a society and they get into a time of plenty and then they don't have kids. And because they don't have kids, then they end up going poor because like there's no one to sustain the system. And it's not about welfare, but it's basically like young people are required to hold the economy. Like they're the ones that do the back-breaking labor. Like you're not going to get like the 65-year-old into construction, right? So they don't have kids, they end up going poor, and then once they go poor, they have more kids to compensate for the generation that didn't have. And this is normal, by the way. Like, this is how things are supposed to be. Like, you can't just have kids nonstop and grow exponentially. Because at one point, like, growing exponentially means that you reach a limit. So it actually is supposed to be like a wave. You are supposed to have, like, a lot of kids, and then you plateau, and you go down, and then you have kids again. Right? But like for some reason people are thinking that no, it's like if you reach the point where you don't have kids, then you will never have kids again. I don't know what they're trying to actually say with that. It's weird. But it's a wave, right? It's not a downward trajectory. And the interesting thing is that even immigrants, right? Like they bring immigrants from parts of the world where people have a lot of kids. So they bring immigrants from Somalia, they bring immigrants from Africa, and it's like over there they have a lot of kids. Do you know what happens? They come to the United States, they come to the United Kingdom, and they don't have kids. Like, once they reach in the system, once they actually benefit from the wealth, they stop having as many kids as if people that are back there have, so. But it's also quality and quantity, right? Like if a person in the rural area has 7 kids, how impactful are those 7 kids going to be versus Bill Gates having a kid? Like, Bill Gates' kid is going to be much more impactful at the world economic at the world stage and shaping society than you're going to have, like, a farmer that has 25 kids. It's just, like, it is the way it is, right? And those 25 kids, like, only require, like, 3 or 4 police officers in riot gear to suppress. Whatever. Not to mention, like, those 25 kids, they have to go through school where they're going to be indoctrinated on why the government is important and why the government is amazing and why the government is great. And they're going to have to get bank accounts and they're going to have to beg the banks that they don't foreclose their accounts. And it's like, you know, just because you're having kids doesn't actually give you genuine power. Billy Blogs, if you're against immigration, I do agree that it's not good. And I made an explanation on why it's happening, right? I made a video, I don't know how many people watched it on my channel, about why, like, mass immigration is being pushed so heavily. And the reason for this is that right now, the Hegelian view of history is what's prevalent in Western societies, right? It comes from academia. And the Hegelian view of history is similar to Star Trek in a way. It views that in order for humanity to progress, you need to change your mindset. And once humans change their mindset, technological achievement follows. So basically what it says is that in the beginning you have tribalism. And people, you know, they don't get along in tribes because life is difficult. And they will start to band together and form kingdoms. But the problem is, like, kingdoms, they're not... They're not stable because 99% of the population is being oppressed, right? Like, you have the nobility that has all the privileges and all the powers, and they're oppressing the peasantry. And eventually the peasantry rises up, and they overthrow the kingdoms. So now you have, like, different ideologies and different factions. So you have, like, communism, capitalism, fascism, Nazism, and they all struggle for supremacy. And eventually capitalism wins. Like, they cannot deny this. It's objectively true. After the Cold War, they will say, okay, well, capitalism is going to win. So, like, what happens in the future? What is the future after this? And they will view, okay, well, the future after this is the 4th Industrial Revolution, is the abolition of borders, and it's a global market, probably led by a global government. So they're looking at the United States and they're noticing how they managed to dissolve all the European identities, like how Italians, Germans, French don't view themselves as such, but now they view themselves as American. And they think, like, okay, well, if America did that, then so can we. And they use the European Union as a blueprint. They're thinking, like, the European Union is an excellent example of this, and they can expand it. So when they have, like, this view of history, where they can just mash people together And eventually, you know, like, sure, it's a boiling pot and there's going to be strife, but like eventually, people are just going to put aside their differences and they're going to live together, and the nationalism is just not going to exist. And companies are going to be able to do business without having to worry about borders, without having to worry about tariffs, without having to worry about different regulations. Companies can just hire the cheapest labor from wherever they want. They don't have to hire internally, right? So when you have this mindset, and this is like the greater good, like this is where history is going to, then when you have something like Brexit, it just mentally destroys these people. Like it just like makes them unable to comprehend what is happening. This is why they view right-wingers as evil. This is why they view nationalism as evil. Because like the Hegelian view of history is that history progresses towards good, right? Like humanity advances towards good. So when you have like someone that brings humanity back, for them it's like you have an inventor that's inventing electricity and the caveman comes with the club smashing the light bulb, right? Like that's how they view it. They view it as uneducated, barbaric, backwards, something that's a problem, not worthy of consideration, right? So this is how they think. This is the ideology that they're saying. Now, the problem is, like, once you manage to, let's say, get a diploma, and you become, like, someone that's important, you become a judge, a prosecutor, a doctor, right? You are surrounded by individuals that think the same, and they believe that if you don't think the same, you're uneducated, you're barbaric. So, you are socially pressured to think like they think. And the problem is that this ideology is actually advantageous for big corporations. Because again, like a world without borders where they can just free trade without having to worry about different regulations and rules is something that they want. So even if they don't necessarily believe in the Hegelian historical view, that they are incentivized to go along simply because it's profitable. This must be stopped by any means. I don't even know how to stop it, to be honest. I just noticed what's happening and why is it happening, and I can probably predict when it's going to go from here for the next 2 or 3 years, but I don't know how to stop it. Like, in order to stop it, you'd need money, you'd need wealth, right? Like, Elon Musk is someone that is slowing things down, but I don't think there's going to be more Elon Musks, you know? Let me show you something about Idiocracy. I really hate the fact that people use Idiocracy as a negative example, because Idiocracy has one of the best politicians that I have ever seen in fiction. So, for those of you who haven't seen the movie, it's about the fact that, like in the beginning, the premise of the movie is that dumb people have more kids. And smart people have fewer kids. So they show like a family that lives in the trailer, and they have like 12 kids. And meanwhile, the people who are like a family of doctors, like the woman preserves her eggs. She's like, oh, we're thinking about it. We don't know if we're going to have the money to have one kid. And eventually they end up not having kids. So the idea is that in the future, if this keeps going on, you're going to have more and more dumb people, right? So you have like this guy that apparently like goes under cryo sleep or something like that, and he wakes up and everyone is absolutely stupid. And the president of the United States is this guy, and he's basically like an entertainer, right? Now the thing is, like, everyone is mocking this movie, but like the president himself is one of the best politicians in the world, right? So he's dealing with a crisis. Just give me a second so I can So I can see what's wrong with the baby. All right, sorry about that. Right, so anyway, as I was saying, the president has to deal with a crisis, and the crisis is that there's a shortage of food, right? So, like, unlike other politicians, he's not throwing it under the rug. He's not pretending that the crisis isn't real. He's actually acknowledging it. It's like, okay, well, there's no food. Now, he doesn't know anything about agriculture, so what he does is he gets a team of experts, like the smartest people in the country, in order to fix the issue. And he doesn't use nepotism. He doesn't just like create a team of experts for the sake of them leeching government taxes. Like, no. He actually gets like the smartest people possible to fix the issue. And the issue seems to be that they were using energy drink rather than water to grow the crops, right? Because like the commercial said that the energy drink is good for everything, so they were using it in order to grow the crops. And this guy is like, okay, well, let's use water instead. So the president actually listens to him, actually does what he says, the crops are growing, and you know what he does after he finishes his term? He endorses the guy. Like, he endorses the smart guy, and he steps down as president. And I'm like, you know what? This is an actually amazing politician. So, like, he genuinely loves this country, loves his people, sees the problem, doesn't know how to fix it, doesn't even need to. Right? He doesn't need to know, because the president doesn't need to be an engineer, and he doesn't need to be a scientist and a computer expert and a biomedical engineer. Like, he doesn't need to be all of these things. The only thing he knows is like, okay, I don't know this shit, but there's a problem. I will delegate responsibility, and I will actually listen to the experts, and I will not delegate responsibility to someone that is trying to leech money off the government, but instead, I will actually do it properly. So yeah, no, like, Idiocracy is actually an amazing system. Like, I wish we lived in Idiocracy. The only way to stop it is for the people to not tolerate it, and will be unwilling to unalive to prevent it. No, I think like if you look at most authoritarian systems, but most people are fine. Like what people want. It's very simple. People just want to go to work and come home and take care of their families. That's it. The only time people rise up is when they're starving or when they're afraid for their safety. That's it. So if the government manages to make sure that people feel safe and they're well fed, then you don't have a problem. They also can rise up if you have like foreign interference, right? So like, for instance, if Germany sends someone like Lenin into Soviet Russia. American Outlier, thank you for the $50. Wow. The USA and South America are unique places because in the USA we had separate but equal meaning. Even in cities, different groups lived right across the street and their kids played with one another with no issues. But then the progressive era changed that. That is so fucking true. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I lived in a neighborhood that had people from various walks of life and different ethnicities, right? So, in other words, I lived next to a group of gypsies. I don't know if it's politically correct to say gypsies or Roma, but like when I went to them and I called them Roma, they were like, if you call this again, we will beat you. Like, no, we are gypsies, this is how you call us. So anyway, the thing was, I actually had a friend that was of Roma ethnicity. Was like one of my best friends at the beginning. I think like I wasn't going to high school yet. I was still in school. And I was going out, it's because like he was my age. Like everyone else was either much bigger than me or smaller, and this guy was my age. His mother was very upset. Like, his mom was the reason that we couldn't be friends. Like, she was upset that he is hanging around with me. My parents had no problems, but his mother was upset. And anyway, as you can tell, there were a lot of strifes, in the neighborhood because of this. Like, there were a lot of problems. Usually the parents were the ones to blame, because like the kids would play with each other, no problem. But like the parents would come in and it's like, you're not allowed to play with this, you're not allowed to play with that. But the thing is, like, there were, and obviously like there were fights and there were bigger issues that were happening in the neighborhood. But there was one place, right? Like, there was one place, the arcades. Like, the arcades at the time were brand new. Like, no one from Romania ever seen video games before. And you would go to the arcades, and there was absolutely no tensions. Like, no ethnical tensions whatsoever. Everyone was friends with everyone. Everyone talked with everyone, right? It was like a common unifier. And that's how video games actually stayed for a while, until the progressives got in. And the progressives were like, well, actually, you're not all gamers. No, like, we have gay gamers, and we have girl gamers, and we have, like, And they started segregating the gamers based on identity politics, and that's when you have, like, the situation which you have now. Well, I will not live in that world. Either will not come to pass, or I will exit. Why don't you emigrate to Poland? If you're in the UK, I mean, you can actually go into Poland, Hungary. I generally, like, do not understand people that have the money to leave and for some reason they don't want to, like do you think you can change something? Or because you know, like if you think you can change stuff from voting, like you can still vote. I mean, if you live in Poland and you have dual citizenship, you can just go back to the UK and vote. Otherwise, like I don't know what to say. But like if it happened in Romania, like this would be the first thing that I would consider. I would talk to my wife, and it's like, okay, well, things are getting a little bit spicy here. I don't think our son would benefit from a future. Like, let's look at options. Like, where can we go? Where can we travel? So that I know that a lot of people don't like this, though. I know that a lot of people do not like this mindset. But at the end of the day, I think the obligation is to yourself and family. So, like, the obligation is for your children to have a good future. And if your government doesn't seem to care and align with your views, and there doesn't seem that there's going to be any changing in the future, like, I don't know. I mean, I can understand if you don't think like me. I can understand if you think that I would be a coward or something. But, like, it's one thing where you're in Ukraine and the Russians are coming and your government is like, okay, to war. Like, that's different, right? Because, like, you feel as if the government has your back and it has your interests in mind. But when it's the government itself that's arresting people for tweeting emojis, like, all I gotta think is, like, okay, so if my son is a chicken little shit and he's 14 and he tweets emojis, will he get arrested? Will I be able to keep him safe from, like, evil tweets? And if the answer is no, then what the fuck am I doing in that country? That's my take, at least. I don't know if other people believe in what I'm saying. But again, like, if your idea is like, well, we'll sit in the country and we can vote, I mean, that's fine. You can do it from abroad. Like, you can go to Poland, you get the dual citizenship, right? Election comes in the UK, you go back into the country, you vote, because it's your right. Aidan Paladin, I moved to UK now 5 years ago, and I would consider myself a British nationalist. I will not leave. Well, I understand that. I'm not saying what you should do. I'm telling you what I would do, though. I am in the US. If I was in the UK, I would be dead now. Jesus, Lixian. V, weren't you the one saying that you should pick your wife and raise your kids as resource to tape for connections and wealth? Yeah, and how does that work if your kid gets arrested for tweeting edgy shit on Twitter? Like, seriously, right? Like, how does it work if your kid goes to school and he gets suspended because he has views? Like, the things that I say are valid for the systems that exist in place then. If the systems change, well, I gotta change my views as well. Would V fight if the Russians invaded Romania? Yeah, I would probably not flee the country. Like, if the Russians invaded Romania, I would definitely have to fight in order to protect my wife and children. So, no, that is different. Like, you have your backing, you have the government backing you, right? Like, you don't feel as if the government has your ill intention. So at least you have a team, you know, you have someone to represent you. So I would definitely not flee the country if it came to that. But, like, if it came to the government starting arresting people for tweeting emojis and shit, then yeah, I would probably consider, all right, well, do I really need to pay taxes in this system? Or can I pay some taxes in Poland? V, most people do not consider moving nations because they're either tied down by extended family or a new language. Okay, if you're English, if you're British, most people in Europe speak your language. So you can come to Romania and everyone will understand you. You can communicate with everyone. Family ties, that's different. I get it. No, I get it. If you have, like, long family ties, then it is what it is. But, like, take into account, you can travel to Germany. Well, actually, I wouldn't go to Germany. Like, it would be ridiculous to flee the UK to go into Germany. But if you have an extended family, a flight from Romania to Britain is like 3 hours. It's a 3-hour flight. I mean, come the fuck on. Like, there were people back in the day that require, like, a 3-hour carriage drive just to go from one place of the country to another. It's not like you're leaving the country. But you're removing yourself from the situation. You don't have to stay there and benefit from the fascismus. Congratulations, you leave the UK for Poland, and the UK just tells Poland what to do. You don't have to take Poland, you can go someplace else, but, like, you don't get arrested in Poland for tweeting emojis, dude. Like, that's my point. Three hours in a Romanian plane, half an hour otherwise. Dude, we get British planes as well. Like, you know, the plane from Britain flies to Romania and vice versa. Like, you probably leave for a different state. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, if you're in Europe and you're leaving from Britain to Romania, it's kind of like you're leaving New York for Illinois, you know? Like, it's still a similar culture. Like, it's not entirely different. People still speak English. So I don't really consider it as, you know, making a huge decision. Again, it's no different than if you're in the United States and you don't like California and you fly over to Texas. It's literally the same. I mean, it's still the European Union, basically. Now the culture, I don't know if in America the culture is that different. I mean, probably it is, actually. No, hold on. Like, if you go from California, which has one culture, and you go to Texas, which has another culture, the difference is probably the same like going from UK to Poland. Yeah, I think it's a very good comparison. If you tweet something in Romania, wouldn't they arrest you once you land in Britain? Depends. Yeah, they can. But it really matters, like, how problematic you are for them and how much money do they want to invest in prosecuting you. So, like, right now, they're probably arresting people in order to make an example. But I'm willing to bet that if you wait a little longer, like, they will ease up on the things, and they will only arrest people that have, like, big followings. So, like, Andrew Tate's and the likes. But, like, if you just have, like, 100 or 1,000 or even, like, 10,000 followers, and they know you're not in Britain, then they may arrest you when you arrive at the airport, sure. Yeah, no, they would. But, like, to actually ask for an extradition, and then Poland will have to look at what you did, and they will be like, yeah, no, we don't think what he did is really that bad. Or if you actually did tweet something really bad, then they may extradite you. There's 2,000 kilometers from Bucharest to London. 30 minutes flight would mean the plane should go 4,000 kilometers per hour. Jesus fucking Christ. The fact that people are crunching the numbers on my shitpost is really interesting. As much as I joke for the average Brit, Australia probably wouldn't too bad different. Man, it's getting to the point, and I'm not even kidding, alright? Like, please correct me if I'm wrong. Hypothetically, if China took over Britain, right? So, like, the Chinese Communist Party is now in charge of Britain. Like they're installed, right? So, how would life be different for the average British citizen? Assuming that China doesn't plan to bring, like, a lot of Chinese immigrants over there, right? Like, assuming that China just wants to govern the UK the same way that it's governing China. How would life for the average Britain person change? And would it change for the better or the worse? Legit question. And 10 years ago, I was thinking, my God, like, China is awful. I mean, you get facial scanning everywhere, and there's invasion in privacy, and you get the inability to say what's on your mind and to think any way you want, right? So, like, is it worth it? Nah, because, like, I like liberty, you know? I enjoy the prospect of being able to express myself, to say whatever I want, to not have the government interfere in my private life. But now I'm thinking, okay, so if China managed to take over the British Isles, like, first of all, the crime level would just plummet. It just would happen overnight. Like, they would just come into... Like, the Chinese system, they don't even get to the point where you have, like, street fights. They just get into the house of dissidents and they lock them up. Like, they know who started it. They know who did it. Like, they would just go into the houses of the gang leaders and just arrest them in the middle of the night. Just disappear. And then you see how everyone from the gang is going to be scared shitless to do anything. Right? Like, if you have a community leader inciting hatred, the next day he's not there. He's just gone. Like, no one knows what happened. Right? So, you do that for a couple of weeks, and then eventually everyone just dies down. Everything it just goes to normal. Like, you will solve the knife crime epidemic overnight, right? So you would have stability. There wouldn't be people with dinghies coming in. Like, China has very strict border control, both for people trying to leave and for the people trying to enter. So you would have the fascism, right? But you would get those things. You would get less crime, and you'd get more stability. What do you have now in Britain? Well, you have like thought policing. They're talking about preventing people from using public transport. They're talking about making it difficult for people to get cars because they want environmentalism. They're talking about facial recognition systems on the street. I don't know if they talked about digital IDs, but I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, they do have actually a legislation where it's like, oh, if you want to view pornography, you got to show ID, right? So I'm pretty sure that would be expanded to other things. But anyway, so where is the disadvantage now? Good night, 338-327-950-288, and thank you for the 6. Is that rupees? If people remember, the Aussies literally made internment camps for people who didn't get the vaccine, and it became international news when the camps had people escape from the camp. I do remember that, yeah. Luckily the pandemic ended just in time, or else the Australians would have been even more inventive with their ways of keeping people safe. Just come to the United States. We still have a good generation or two to save the place before we become like Western Europe. That is actually a good point. If you're from Britain, you can actually do travel to the United States. Yeah. Just don't go to New York. You know, just go to Texas or someplace. Those are shekels? Why do shekels have like such a funny symbol? It looks like Florence's from Assassin's Creed. Huh. Interesting. What is the value of shekels? Hold on, now I'm curious. Like, how many shekels to dollars? So I got six shekels. That is $1.5. But they're mine. And they're shekels. I don't think I ever got shekels, but this is fucking cool. I like shekels. Can I get more shekels? Do I have anyone that has shekels? Huh? I just want shekels. I don't want dollars. If you have shekels, give me shekels. Do you think Israel is ever going to join the European Union and then the shekels will become the euro? I have more shekels, motherfucker. But I want shekels from someone else. I already have shekels from 338-327-950-288. But now I have more shekels from him, so that's great. The answer to 1984 is 1776. I don't know what happened in 1776. I generally don't. Is that like the thing with remember the November stuff? I think I saw it in the London Dungeon. You know, like, I'm actually curious. Like, 100 years from now, when you go to London Dungeon, will you see like Keir Starmer's reign, where people were arrested for tweets? Here's the thing. Do you guys know what London Dungeon is? Israel will never join the EU. We hate the EU here. Do you think you have a choice? Like, this is hilarious. I love your optimism. So anyway, hold on. London Dungeon, right? So the London Dungeon, it costs like £60. That's like $80 or some shit. And it's a tourist attraction, and it's surprisingly a very good one. It looks like this. And hold on, let me see if I can find something about it. Yeah. Ah, here we go. You basically go in what's like a I don't know how to describe it because like I've never seen anything like it. I'm sure there must be something like this elsewhere in the world. It's not like a mini theater. Okay, so you go down an elevator and all of this is underground, and it's got like different rooms, and every room has a theme from London's past. And you have like themes with the plague, things with Jack the Ripper. They talk about the remember the 6th of November type of shit. And when you go into a room, there's actors and they do like improvised acting, right? So they will choose someone from the group and they will interact with that person. It's all fun. And as I mentioned, like they have like different places from Britain's past that are horrifying. You know, like the London fires, the plague. And I'm thinking like maybe 100 years from now they will add like Keir Starmer's reign. And it was a place where if you tweeted emojis, you would get arrested. And they would send you to the prison where they would teach you about diversity. Yeah, but the London Dungeon is really cool. You can't pay cash to enter it, though. You can't pay cash. You must pay with credit card. So they won't take your shekels. No matter how many you have. Although I think if you go there with like 100,000 shekels, they may let you in because then we'll be like, okay, well, you know what? You go in, I'll use my card to pay for you. 1776 is the US declared independence from England. Oh my fucking god, I'm ashamed for not knowing. What the fuck happened to King Charles? I don't know. Like, usually kings are just... In Britain, they're just there. But I feel like the King Charles agree with all of this. Like, that's the thing, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, my mind. No, I think King Charles is on board with everything that's happening. I mean, I heard him, talk about environmentalism and progressive ideology and all that shit. No, I think he's on board. I think he's consenting. I don't know what the previous queen would have thought. Like, yeah, like the previous queen would probably not have liked what's happening. But, yeah, the current king is probably fine. I think he has, like, colorectal cancer. Like, he's got butt cancer. But, again, like, he's the king, so he probably has, like, the best doctors in the land, so... Physicians. They call them physicians in Britain. He's lefty only on environmentalism? He's pro-European Union. I don't think, like, he's against immigration. I genuinely, like, do not see King Charles being next to Tommy Robinson, you know? The 5th of November in the UK is gonna be lit this year. Oh, yeah, you guys do celebrate that. When is it? August, September? Oh, you got 3 more months. King Charles is on board because he's part of the WEF. Everyone is fucking part of the WEF. Like this is what most people don't understand. If you were rich, you would be part of the WEF as well. Most people don't go to the WEF in order to hear the blah blah blah. They go to the WEF to shake hands and make networking. So, like, if you are a business leader, you cannot afford not to go to the WEF. And institutions like the WEF existed throughout human history. It's just that now we have the media and we can see them better. They're more visible. But, you know, like world leaders and influential merchants and business people getting around and talking politics, like that existed from time immemorial. Like big clubs where the wealthy gather and the wealthy talk about how to run the country. Like that's not something new. He actually helped found the World Economic Forum. Well, there you fucking go. I didn't know that. But, like, as I mentioned, I do think that King Charles is the most progressive king Britain ever had. Yes, merchants. Yeah, like, merchants are important. Every single nation needs to have merchants. You can't have an economy without merchants. Shit needs to be moved around. Did V talk about Musk and Rumble burning GARM down? No, I will actually. I will talk about it on my main channel. This is quite significant. So for those of you who don't know what GARM is, it's an alliance of some of the most wealthy companies in the world. And they managed to ally themselves in order to decide what is acceptable and what isn't on social media platforms. So basically, they were setting the TOS for most platforms. They were like deciding what is a violation and what isn't. So like there's a lot of shit on YouTube which you can't show if you want your channel to be monetized, right? And some of the shit is like absolutely bizarre. Like for instance, you notice many content creators, right? They use words like self-delete. They use words like unalive. They say the coof. They say grape, right? And the reason for this is that the advertisers, they have set the terms of service, and they're usually enforced through bots, right? So like no one watches your video, but like if you use certain keywords, it gets flagged. And it makes it impossible to talk about any important topics, right? So like if you have a Me Too event, and let's say you have, you're talking about the Donald Trump, or no, you're talking about Kavanaugh, right? So you're talking about Kavanaugh, and you're saying, well, this woman accused Kavanaugh of raping her, and this is political. Like it's on every single major news channel. It's on every single newspaper. Everyone is talking about this. Like this is an important conversation for the public, but you can't have it on YouTube unless you're CNN, right? Because GARM doesn't like you to talk about these things. So what ends up happening is that they get sued by Elon Musk, and they get sued by Rumble, and now GARM just dissolved. But Elon Musk was on the stage telling them to go fuck themselves, and apparently they did, because his point is look, if you're a company, you can either advertise on my platform or don't. But the idea that, oh, we'll advertise on your platform if you change the TOS, that's blackmail. And this is what Elon Musk is talking about, right? Because he doesn't like being blackmailed. Because it's what these companies were doing. It's like, okay, well, we will go there, but you need to ban this guy, and you need to ban that guy, and you need to change the TOS to make it like so. To be fair, it's not really the company's fault. I mean, it is to a certain degree, but it's also the activists to blame. This happened during feminism. And up until feminism, if you saw Alex Jones with a Coca-Cola promotion, right? So you're tuning in to Alex Jones' channel because at the time he was on YouTube, and you see an advertisement for 5 seconds for Coca-Cola. Now, you don't actually think that Coca-Cola endorses Alex Jones. They probably don't know who they are. What happened is that Coca-Cola paid money to YouTube to push their product to people of certain ages from certain parts of the world. They're interested in the demographics. They're not interested in the content creator. But the activists tried to push it to the public psyche that, no, if you see a Coca-Cola ad before Mr. Beast, then Coca-Cola endorses Mr. Beast. And that's what the companies were freaking out. And by the way, the companies didn't like this. Because the companies just want to sell the product. They don't give a fuck. It's easier for the company to just be like, okay, well, I'm making Harley Davidson. Just push my product onto people who have motorcycles, who are between the age of 20 and 40, who are men, right? So they're looking at the demographics, who's more likely to buy the engine, right? They don't want to think it's oh yeah, but now we need to hire people to worry about which platform and how we do it, and yeah. It all changed after the bridge incident, yes. Anyway, speaking of talking about other subjects, I do need to go and make the videos for the main channel. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate your viewership, and I'll see you later.